Welcome to Preps Plus Podcast, episode 36. I'm Jason Leskiw here with sports editor Josh Hart. We got a good one for you. An interview with Woodland softball pitcher Olivia coming at you in a little bit here. But we're going to start off, in lieu of spring break and Easter Sunday coming around the bend here. We decided to pick some of our favorite sports holidays, national and high school. I'll let Josh run down the list here and see what we decide.
So when we're talking about sports holidays, we'll start with the national side of things, but these are things like opening day, first weekend of March Madness, the NBA Finals, Thanksgiving Day for NFL football, things that kind of just you can think of and you immediately know the feeling that corresponds to that. So that's what we're talking. National sports holidays, high school sports holidays are things like the first day of football practice, the MAC Classic, mostly state events, some not. District championship basketball certainly has a feel to it that Saturday. So we'll break all that down. I'll start with my number one national sport holiday, and that just happened. I took a vacation specifically for it. That is the first weekend of March Madness. There's nothing better than sitting and watching like 14 straight hours of college basketball 4 days in a row. You got like 4 games on at once at times. You got craziness, you got upsets, you got Cinderella stories, you got underdog stories, you got great profiles on kids. There's just nothing that beats that weekend.
Baltimore Community College. What was that? What was the name of that school again? I'll never be able to remember.
University of Maryland, Baltimore County.
Baltimore County.
Yeah.
Okay. Isn't there a Baltimore County somewhere around here?
No.
Oh,
not that I'm aware.
All right. Fair enough. See, that's where we differ. I can't do 14 hours of college. I can't do 14 hours of basketball at any level. But I appreciate college basketball. 1 or 2 games though that's the limit. So how about, I thought you were going to say opening day, which is on our list, but I guess not.
No, it's one of them. It's up there.
Yeah.
But yeah, opening day obviously just happened. I have it at number 4 actually.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean there's a certain feel to it, but like usually you have, this was one of the few years like everyone played at one time. Usually you have like that game that happens like 3 days before in like Japan or something.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's
Like
true.
It just kind of spoils it. This year was great. Like you had all those games. There's just a certain feeling about baseball season starting, knowing that there's a marathon, and so like that first game matters a lot. You're like, how's my team gonna do?
Yeah.
Mariners going to the World Series. Nelson Cruz is awesome. And then 60 games into it, you're like, we're not even halfway through. So that's why opening day is good for baseball. Is like there's just that certain feeling, and there's not very many days that stack up to it in the baseball season.
Right. All right, and then let's see, we got Super Bowl next. It's a pretty big one.
Yeah, I got it at number 3.
Yeah, it's funny because my list, I think, I don't have that on my list. I eliminated.
Why don't you go through some of the ones on your list here?
Okay, all right. So number 1 was opening day. Number 2 was Major League Baseball's trade deadline, which Josh almost, Josh kind of mentioned, hey, that's maybe not a sports holiday on the big level.
But Jason is a sports nerd.
I love transaction periods. The NFL offseason, baseball. The basketball trade deadline in the last couple of years has been pretty meh, but
yeah, but that's because basketball has a certain level of Looney Tunes throughout the whole stinking year now.
Without question, yeah. So but that's going to be that was almost my top. But opening day, especially having just experienced it, it's hard to beat. So. Then there's the NFL draft, as I said.
I nearly had it on there. I can't get behind too much of like opening day. At least there's results. Like
sure
to me,
sure.
But it's like a long season, right? Mm-hmm. To me, the NFL draft is opening day without any results. It's like here's all of this excitement, here's all of this build up for certain players or certain teams, and like none of that matters at all. Like in 3 months, it's going to be forgotten because X, Y, or Z, that first round draft choice or the first pick, busted his face riding an ATV and is no longer on the team.
Right.
Shout out Malik McDowell. Go Seahawks.
Yeah, I mean, no, you're totally right. And I think once you get past the 4th round, unless you've just wasted your life studying the draft and, the prospects, it's tough to know who these guys are.
Plus, this for a Seahawks fan, like we haven't experienced the NFL draft in like 4 years because, like, I called it last year. Nobody believed me in the office. I said the Seahawks will trade. I said the Seahawks will trade down, and then when they did, I said the Seahawks will trade out of the first round. They did both of those things. If you're a Seahawks fan, you know they're trading down. I would not be shocked to see them with how few picks they have this year again. I don't see them trading out of the first round. They need something. But I can certainly see them trading from 18 to 24 or 25 to pick up a couple extra picks.
Well, that's the thing, too. It takes two to tango, right? And finding the right deal can be tough, especially because, the top 5, top 10 picks, I think most teams value those the same way. But when you get to those bottom 16, I know that some general managers and some personnel teams don't value those picks high at all relative to the cap, and some still, could never trade them away.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to get on board with the NFL draft. With being a Seahawks fan, usually it's like day 2 until you really can start to pay attention.
Right.
But, I mean, it's kind of interesting. There's some intrigue to it.
Okay.
I have the first weekend of March Madness. I have to say MLB postseason at number 2.
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing. Baseball turns into a different sport in MLB postseason. You have teams all year, 162 games, play a certain style of baseball. And then they get into the postseason, and anybody who's watched the wild card games the past couple of years, teams freak out. They're like, I don't want to swing the bat. I don't want to risk getting out or striking out. Games are like 1-0. Pitchers take over. Now, later in the postseason, it changes a little bit. But, like, runs are such at a premium. Every moment seems to be magnified. And just, like, watching that for a month straight in October is fascinating because that's baseball. Like, in the regular season, if you watch the MLB postseason, you can see how little teams care in the regular season.
Right.
Like, they're joking around. They're like, hey, where are we going to eat later?
Yeah, and lately with that 3,000 frame per second camera that they have for some of these games, I'll never forget. At least I hope I'll never forget. I'm getting old. This is a good 5 years now, I think. Hunter Pence's hit in like the 8th inning of the what was that? The NLCS or something.
He's already forgotten.
And I can't remember the specifics anymore. This is bad. This is age and fatherhood kicking in here, folks. But he hits the ball 3 times with one swing, and that camera picks up every detail. I remember seeing it live, and I don't know if you remember this at all, or if you watched that game. In full motion, it looks like the shortstop misplays it, and then it gets slowed down to a crawl, and you see the ball hit once, twice, and then 3 times as it rolls off the end of the barrel, and it's just and that wouldn't matter that much in the regular season. So
yeah, no, I like the stakes of MLB postseason. Like, I mean, it can be long. Like, if anybody watched the World Series last year, it was long. I mean, like, there was 4 and 5 hour games, but it was thrilling. Every pitch, from the first pitch to the 13th inning or whatever, was like, oh my gosh, what is gonna happen? It's pretty great. Very, very few things can stack up to that, the magnitude of it. I got Super Bowl number 3. I don't know where you have Super Bowl.
I don't.
You don't have the Super Bowl. Super Bowl just has that like kind of party feel to it. Like, you just get together with friends. Like the game, like, matters very little. Like, aside from the Super Bowls,
your team's in it.
Right. Aside from the Super Bowls where the Seahawks were in it, I didn't really care, but I enjoyed watching the game. There was few Super Bowls better than this year's, with just the scoring. Like, Okay, sorry to both defenses. You guys were both terrible. But, like, that was a fun game to watch.
Yeah. I wasn't as thrilled as other people were. I was thrilled that we saw something different. I mean, not that it was a whole lot different from it, but, you know, the Patriots have been in that game for half the century now. This new century, you know, the 21st
Yeah, but you don't
century.
love rooting against the Patriots?
Not really. I mean, I don't care. I really appreciate what they've managed to do. My thing is, come on, you know, the Eagles winning, I think, was good for football, good for fandom, good for the sport. You know, especially a team that didn't win. You know, before that, right?
Yeah, I mean, the closest they got was Donovan McNabb's mid huddle puke.
Right. I mean, it's almost like there's two things in the NFL postseason over the last 10 years that we can take to the bank. Okay, the Patriots are at very least going to be in the AFC Championship game, and Andy Reid's going to blow a game, you know, because he can't manage a playoff game. Those are two things, you know, you can take to the bank over the last 10 years. So.
But yeah, anyway, Super Bowl has a certain feeling. I like that. I already said my number 4 was opening day. Number 5, the NBA Finals. There's just a certain back and forth to it. It's the only game of the NBA postseason the past few years that's really mattered at all. Though, like, everyone knew it was going to be Cavs Warriors. Mm-hmm. You know, before that, everyone knew the Spurs were going to be in it versus whoever's LeBron James team was that year. But once you get to that NBA Finals, there's just, again, the stakes are raised, and it seems like every shot matters, and it seems like, you know, the series is always in doubt. So I like that about the NBA Finals. It's the only part of that NBA season I can watch with any real interest.
Yeah, I felt like the NBA is just too predictable.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I think it's nice to get into the finals where you actually, I mean, like, you can never count out LeBron. So you take LeBron the past 8 NBA finals in a row, and you take whoever the Western Conference power is at the time.
Right.
I mean, I think that's a lot of fun.
Okay.
What's your top 5? I went over mine. I got March Madness, MLB postseason, Super Bowl, opening day, NBA Finals.
All right, so we went through the top 3: opening day for baseball, the trade deadline for baseball, the NFL draft, and for me, it's just the entire transaction period starting, you know, the first league day of the league year, then going up till really the 5th round of the draft. After that, I'm just burnt out. But then there's Thanksgiving football.
Yeah.
To me, and I think maybe it's because, kind of like you mentioned, the party atmosphere of the Super Bowl, that family atmosphere of Thanksgiving, the fact that you're just going to pig out, and you know, for us it's, you know, playing ping pong or playing football, whatever, or both, and baseball. Actually, I think the last Thanksgiving or 2 Thanksgivings ago, we played baseball, football, and had a ping pong.
Yeah, there's a certain, like, going out after turkey and playing football before passing out on the couch.
Yeah,
deal.
yeah, exactly. So there's that. Then the MLB postseason is 5th, and I didn't necessarily rank those in exact order, I guess. I'd actually probably have the draft at the very bottom and MLB postseason 3rd, really. But
All right.
yeah.
All right. High school sports we'll move on to, and I've said this before, I think I've written a column about it. My number 1 high school sporting event, by far my favorite, is the MAC Classic. Mm-hmm. It's the only event where every classification state tournament is happening all at once, under the same roof. I mean, you have 1,000 some wrestlers, you have like 20 mats going at once. It is insane. There's a big crowd. Wrestling is one of those sports, like, you can tell at the end of the year these people care. Like, if you've gotten to that point, every single athlete cares, right? Mm-hmm. It's not, you know, it's not like, oh, I'm a sophomore and I'm, you know, the 12th man, and, you know, it's been fun, but, you know,
right.
Whatever, right? I mean, every single one of these guys has dislocated shoulders and fingers and all of these things, and they've just put their heart and souls out there, and it's the only place where you'll see the toughest dudes in high school bawl their eyes out.
Mm-hmm.
It's an incredible event. What's your number one high school event?
First day of football practice. There's nothing beats it. I mean, for us as reporters too, it's like when we go and do our tour of schools in our coverage area, and you really get to see. For me, it's a really, really big window into how a team's going to do, some of the personalities on a team, things like that. When I, for example, came back from a Kalama practice, it was like 8:30 on a Saturday, and first thing I thought is, hey, this team probably going to win a championship. And you can kind of see that from a practice. You can see, a team's going to take big steps. I saw it with Ari Long. Okay, this team is going to take big steps. And there's also, I think, probably the excitement that football's.
Yeah, there's a certain air about like this is the start of the prep season, especially as like reporters. Like we do a lot of stuff over the summer to prepare for our football magazine and that sort of thing. But like that first day of practice, you're like, okay,
right
now here's our 9-month journey. Like this is where it begins.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just that certain. I mean, it's hot out. It's nice and warm. You're t-shirt
be
and
outside.
shorts, going out to practices. And yeah, you're right. There's a certain, you can tell which teams are going to be good just based on the excitement of that first day of practice. Like, there's certain teams that you can there's a certain like energy that's let off of that team.
Right.
So yeah, first day of football practice. I have actually at number 3. My number 2 is the Hardwood Classic. Again, you have just a bunch of teams under one roof. You have. The stakes are raised.
Mm-hmm.
I somewhat like the additional 4 teams, but it does make for a long week. Yes. But yeah, I mean, I just enjoy as a reporter getting to cover all of those games. You get to, you get to develop a little bit closer relationships with coaches and players just because you're talking to them every day. You just watched them play yesterday. You get a feel for their style. Before that, we may have watched the team play 5, 6, 7 times all year, and then you get to watch them 3, 4 times in a week. So that's certainly, I really enjoy the Hardwood Classic.
Okay.
So that's my 3. I
Why
have
don't you round
top
out,
3.
You should round out the list there.
Okay, so I have Mac Classic, Hardwood Classic, first day of football practice. My number 4 is baseball Final Four.
Yeah.
The coaching decision on pitchers in the Final Four because of pitch counts is so intriguing to me. I've seen coaches decide to not throw their ace in that first one time and time and time again. And then lose.
Yeah.
Throw your ace in the semifinal. I get it. You want the ace in the championship game. I know it's weird that your ace is not in the championship game, but you're not in that championship game unless you win the first one.
Yeah. Just ask Buck Showalter from 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, I mean, so I love baseball Final Four just for the strategy of all that. And then my number 5 is state championship football. You have the 2 games or whatever on Friday and then the 4 on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing better than that. Just, I have 4 things better than that.
If we have to be technical, right?
But it's state football.
Right.
I mean, it's the premier event of the season.
Creme de la creme.
Yeah, and from the 1B game to the 4A game, it's going to be exciting.
Yeah. All right, I'll round out. So we said for me the first day of football practice was important. Baseball Final Four is number 2. I think there's pretty much a consistency with my prep sports and then the national sports here. State softball number 3.
Yeah, I like that. There's like all the games happen in one weekend.
Yes.
Like that's what's nice about state softball.
Well, and it's happening in May after it's been raining for a year.
Yeah.
And then finally you get to be outside all day. It's nice and warm.
Yeah, if we lumped everything together and put all the sports that happen that Memorial Day weekend, I think you'd have no choice but to put it number 1. Because you have baseball final, you have all the spring events wrapping up on the same weekend.
Right.
Exactly. It's hell for reporters, but it's a lot of fun too.
Yeah, oh yeah. And just being, like I said, just being outside. I think for me, I know probably for you too that just being outside.
No, I'm a vampire. Indoors only.
Dude, you are pale. Yeah, so then district championship basketball. I know you kind of mentioned Hardwood Classic. For me, I really enjoy the tactical nature of it. I think in a lot of ways these teams, kind of like you mentioned earlier with baseball and the decisions that have to be made with district basketball. I'm sure as a coach, it'd be interesting to ask a bunch of coaches here, but you almost wonder if how many guys outthink themselves, and psych themselves out. There's just, for me, that increased drama that makes sports so fun, especially in the postseason.
Yeah. We had a huge weekend for district champion. I think we had like 7 district championship games on that, like one weekend, like Friday, Saturday.
Yes, we did.
And St. Martin's is always fun.
St. Martin's is
and Mark Morris has guaranteed us, like, we get to go experience St. Martin's every year. Like, I think, what is it, like a ton of district championship games in a row, right?
Right. Well, and I think this past year against with Mark Morris and Columbia River, they'd split in the regular season, and the first game was just strange. It was just a weird game. Then the second game, buzzer beater, Mark Morris wins. Same thing at the districts, and that district game, I think probably was twice as long, but just made it even more exciting.
Yeah,
I think for everybody there.
And heck, 2 years ago, Mark Morris versus Woodland, the fire alarm goes off in the building.
Kidding.
Everyone has to evacuate.
What quarter was this?
It must have been. It was either late third or early fourth.
Oh, fun! So right as thing, it's like the power going out on Monday Night Football.
Yeah. It was crazy. Our headline I still really liked was "Sound the Alarm." So I thought that, but it was crazy. Everyone's outside. I'm with the whole like Mark Morris student section, and they're like still going wild, right? And it's like they're all outside. It's like 30 degrees outside. It was one of the strangest things I've ever seen.
Was this at St. Martin's?
Yeah, I was at St. Martin's 2 years ago. Somebody had pulled the fire alarm, but process is like you have to evacuate till the firefighters come check it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was crazy. So district championship always gets something weird.
Did the fire department stay and watch the end?
They should have. It was a good game.
All right.
So what's your number 5?
Regional baseball and district softball. Like I said, there's the two lists are very similar. I did my national list with baseball postseason. I had my prep list with baseball and softball postseason there. And there's just something special about postseason baseball. There really is. I think pretty much anybody can agree to that. And if you don't agree with that, I just really don't want to know you. So,
Alrighty.
Yeah.
You gonna hop into that interview with Olivia?
Yeah, why don't we do that? So Olivia Gray stopped by the office earlier in the week, and the next day struck out 19?
I think 16, right?
16? Yeah, I can't.
Well, because you can't. I guess there's 21.
21 hitters, yeah, unless
I think
it's
it was 16.
Game.
I don't know. She strikes out a lot of batters.
A lot of batters, and has a very interesting backstory that is not just important in her situation. I think it's really important for the entire state. So I really enjoyed this interview, and we'll jump into that. Thanks for listening to Josh and I ramble, and here's the fun part. Welcome back to the Preps Plus podcast here with Olivia Gray, Woodland superstar now. 0 earned runs through, four outings?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, I mean, that in itself, when you're going 5-7 innings and, through that many outings and not is it 3 hits allowed? What is it? It's
2.
2 hits allowed. Okay. So, yeah. Okay. So I took the over, and I guess I lost that bet then, huh?
Oh.
So, yeah, walk me through kind of the progression from, a couple of years ago to now in your junior season.
I'd like to say freshman year when I was at Kalama, I believed we had a strong team. We made all the way to districts, but I think there was a couple gaps with everything. Like with every team, there was complications, and I don't think I was a very mature pitcher back then. I mean, I wasn't playing at my best at that time. And then last year, having to sit JV, I was getting recruited, and a couple of colleges were noticing that I was lacking a lot of stamina, and I had to go through a really rough period. I had a school that had told me that if I didn't shape up within 3 months, I would get cut off, and I was kind of put all my eggs in one basket with that school. And I went through about a 2-week period where I thought about quitting. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know if this is what I wanted, but in those 2 weeks, I knew what I had to do. I ended up getting a trainer out of Vancouver. I go to New Athlete for workouts, and in about 4 months, I lost about 45 pounds.
Okay.
And I gained a lot of attention from other schools. And I mean, the workouts, going to a trainer, it makes you so much mentally stronger, and obviously physically stronger. Right. And that's where I really learned who I wanted to be. And I want to be a better person, I want to be a better teammate, and I want to be a better all-around athlete. And definitely this year, it's been a lot nicer. I mean, we have a great group of girls this year. We really do. There's a lot of personality with the team. I mean, we have girls like Kaylee Christensen, who's very quiet, but when you get it out of her, she's very funny. She's very energetic. Right. And then we have girls like Lila Russell out in center who, I mean, we go back and forth together, but there's a lot of personality on the team, and it's a lot of fun, and I'm really excited, and I think it's a great team.
Okay, nice. And I have to ask, was that school that you mentioned, was that Portland State, or was it a different school?
It was a different school.
Okay.
Yeah, they came in the picture late. Portland State was able to kind of swoop in at a perfect time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And I'm guessing that was probably one of the first times they'd ever gone to a JV squad to recruit a player, right?
No, actually, PSU or none of the schools I talked to come down to my high school games. It's strictly, I play for Northwest Bullets out of Portland, Oregon, which is we're a very competitive program, and we travel to California very frequently, and Colorado once a week in the summer. And it's a very competitive squad, and it's really changed my game all around. And I play with girls like Kaya Oliver from Richfield, and a couple top girls out of Oregon. It's a very competitive environment, so they mostly go to those games.
Okay. And then as far as so I'm going to just refresh to anybody who didn't listen to last week's podcast or isn't familiar with your story. So you played on the JV squad because you transferred for academic reasons, and because you still live in Kalama, she was ineligible to play varsity ball. Although, as we talked about last week on the podcast, and just before we started recording, there's plenty of other in the Seattle area. You can transfer to any school you want. They say, okay, it has to be for academic reasons, even though it's pretty obvious in some cases that's, that people want to play for Brandon Roy or, whoever else. There's football teams, obviously, although a separate situation, but everybody knows the story with Bellevue football and some of the things that happened there. Nationally, you have De La Salle football program who puts out NFL caliber talent on a regular basis. From the class when I was graduated high school in 2004, I think 70% of their starters on that team went to the NFL. And so you have all these, those guys, while they may have benefited academically from some of the cities that those guys were coming from, in a large sample, that's not the case. People are transferring for athletic reasons, So you get held down. First of all, I got to ask, how tough was that to, have to pitch JV, when you clearly belonged on a varsity team, and also how hard was that on, teammates and the opposing teams who, varsity teams can't hit off you now. So as a JV team, I'm sure it was even tougher, right?
I mean, yes and no. I think it was nice because I did enjoy my time on JV. I was a little worried going into it that I would kind of hate every second of it, but I really didn't, because it brought back the funness of the game I play.
Okay.
And even though it wasn't as competitive of an atmosphere, it was still, I loved the girls I was playing with. I loved playing with all of them, and I didn't start a lot of the games. I actually played first base a lot of the time for JV, and they would only pitch me when they just kind of felt like it. So I'd only pitch about an inning or two once every 3 games.
Got it. Okay.
So it was more of just kind of a relaxing experience for me. But I know Tom struggled a little bit, looking over and seeing me pitch and kind of one more year.
Right.
But I think I enjoyed my time on JV, and I think it's a good experience, and it's nice to it's not all about winning all the time.
Okay.
It's about having a good dynamic on the team and having fun. That's the thing, is it's about fun, not so much about winning. Yeah.
Right. Winning is nice, though. I know how nice winning is.
Yes.
I know how awful losing on a consistent basis is too.
Yes.
I think a lot of people have been on a team that didn't really do very well, and So, how has there been an adjustment for you? Going from JV to varsity, and after not pitching in a game situation too much last year, it seems like you've got right into the swing of things there, but.
It definitely helps playing for a travel team. I mean, it was a hard transition going from a JV season straight into travel ball. That was a little bit of a hard transition. I think that's where I struggled a little bit. But once I got back into it and I knew what I wanted, I just went after it, and I went after it for my team.
Okay.
And I knew that this year my goal for myself for this year was to be the best possible teammate I can be, and to help my team and help my defense out as much as I absolutely can. Because the thing is, I'm a pitcher, but there's 8 other girls on the field at all times. And then, I have to support my catcher, I have to support my shortstop, I have to support my first baseman. Mm-hmm. It all goes back to the team, and I'm doing this for my team.
Okay. And obviously, another thing, WF West wins a state championship last year, and they're right there, 45 miles up the road, but, and not in the league, but, in that neighboring league where, I'm sure at this point, I expect you guys to be in the playoffs, and so when it comes time to play in those games, decent chance you guys will meet there. How does it, hearing that and then thinking about that, how does that make you feel as far as, knowing that the state champions from last year are just up the road and you guys will cross paths maybe a couple times this year?
It's exciting to me. It's really exciting to me because I personally love to compete, and I know my teammates love to compete at all times. Mm-hmm. And having them being so close to us, it pushes me, and it pushes a lot of the other girls on our team to that. Just because you were state champions last year doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be it this year. I mean, it's up in the air on who's going to win state this year, but I believe that with our squad, and if we keep performing how we are, mm-hmm. there's no doubt in my mind that we will be able to be up and running with WF West. I mean, they have a great set of girls, and that doesn't mean that we have a bad set of girls. I think we have an amazing set of girls on our team, and I really think that we're a very dominant squad.
Okay. And offensively, how how's the feeling? Obviously, when you're on the mound, you'd expect not many runs need to be scored, but you guys have obviously gotten runs across. How does the offense look in your opinion?
The offense looks great. I mean, I see us where you're just needing to get on top of the ball a little bit earlier, mm-hmm. but I mean, every team is going to have little tiny tweaks that we need to have. I mean, we've been doing a great job of scoring and having really great hits. I mean, we have Kelly Swire who can hit the ball extremely hard, and you have mm-hmm. Kaylee Christensen, and you have Chloe Eddy and Justice Holcomb who can all hit really hard. So, okay. I mean, I think we're going to be just fine in time for WF West.
Okay. Is there a game other than WF West or any other two? Is there one game, that you have circled on the calendar that you guys, that whether Tom said, hey, we got to win this game, this is our arch nemesis, or?
Well, I mean, every game for me is honestly, it's exciting for me. Every game we play, I think every game is a chance to compete, and every game is a chance to make yourself better. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I definitely would say that Ridgefield, I think playing Ridgefield is going to be our game. I really believe, and I mean, I think it's a very even match too. Okay. I mean, Kai and I go back with Sarah and Emma and Kai. I mean, because we've all played for Bullets and everything, but I think that's really going to be a great game, and I think that's going to be I'm really excited to compete against them because I think we're very evenly matched with them.
Nice. And is there anyone? I mean, I'm guessing you'd like to win a state title this year.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Beyond that, is there any one thing that that you'd like to accomplish this season?
Just do it for my team.
Mm-hmm.
You know, softball is a team sport. This is about doing it for each other. And I have my defense's back, and I know that they have my back. So, I mean, just making sure that we're competing as a team and as a complete unit. I mean, we're a family.
Okay.
And, I mean, I love every single girl on the field, all times, even who's on bench. I love every single one of them, even on JV. I mean, everyone that is a part of the Woodland softball team,
Mm-hmm.
I have unconditional love for, and we're all a family.
Okay.
And, I mean, family, we don't separate from each other. We're for each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. One thing about the Woodland roster that I think sticks out, especially if you watch, you know, for me, like watching Woodland basketball and, you know, track or cross country, things like that. You know, like for me, I know exactly how athletic and how much more athletic the Woodland roster is than some other rosters. You know, just the basketball players on the team and, you know, the things like that. Do you see that translating, the speed that some of the girls have and all that stuff, the hand-eye coordination?
Yes, definitely. I mean, we have some very dominant basketball players and volleyball players, and it's great to see them for softball too. But I mean, we're playing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and we're here to compete. And I mean, it's crazy to see. I mean, basketball ended a couple of weeks right before softball season, but I mean, they transitioned very nicely. And I mean, we have some very quick base runners who basketball helps them out with that. And I mean, Kelly Swire can run.
Mm-hmm.
That girl can run.
Right.
And I mean, then we have Peyton Foster in the outfield. I mean, she can get to the ball really quick.
Mm-hmm.
You have girls like Mabel Warrendal who plays soccer. I mean, she gets there fast.
Okay.
So I mean, that definitely helps out a lot with it.
All right. And then I want to wrap back to, you know, the transfer thing. So I was hoping, in your own word, you know, in your words, what if you would say, or were able to say something to the WIA or to anybody in charge of transfer rules? You know, first off, do you think that they have things right? You know, that does that make sense? Like, do you feel like having to sit out, you know, a year of varsity because you transferred is the right thing, or is there something? Is that something you'd like to see changed?
Yes and no. I possibly think that they should be getting interviewed on why they want to transfer, because if there's academic problems going on, then maybe that needs to be taken up with the actual school and question that they're already going to.
Right.
But if it's a strictly athletic transfer, I think that yes, I see that being looked down upon. But I mean, I think that they're trying to regulate something, and I see what they're trying to control, and I see how it does work out, but I also see where the faults are. So I mean, it's a very tough call, because you have wholehearted people who want to just transfer for academic reasons, but then there are always going to be someone who wants to transfer just for athletics. So I mean, it's a really tough call. It's all personal.
Okay. And then kind of going back to the fact that, you know, Seattle has transfer rules that are looser than, you know, maybe some other areas or private schools where, you know, one thing Josh and I were talking about last week is, you know, if a family has a lot of money, right, they can move out of a district and do a certain district, and they're just at a huge advantage, and obviously that having money creates advantages in a lot of different areas of life. But, you know, between private schools, how much of a competitive disadvantage does that put other schools or players at, and how, I mean, does that the other thing, how unfair does that feel that someone can go to a private school and transfer, you know, whereas, you know, to transfer a couple miles down the road, you know, in your case, you have to sit out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely hard, and I mean, that's life at the same time. And I mean, wealth and poverty, it bounces back and forth, you know. I mean, yes, it completely sucks that someone who is getting a more of an income has the ability to move and transfer and all these better access points, you know, but it's really hard. But I mean, I don't feel like I was getting punished per se for transferring. I think it's just the cost.
Right.
You know, that's just a cost that you not really have to pay for, but you're paying for with sitting.
Right.
You know? And that was a choice that I made for myself, that I was okay with that. And you have to be okay with sitting at JV. Because if I wasn't okay with sitting, you know, then maybe I would have just stayed at Claymont and had that choice. But I chose to move to Woodland.
Okay. And then wrapping up here, final thoughts on the league and you know, and on the season in general. What do you expect down the road?
I just see a lot of fun. I see a lot of competitiveness, and I mean, I'm super excited. The girls are super excited. Tom's super excited. And
I'm sure Tom's really excited.
yeah, he's definitely an amazing coach, and he's a great guy, great person. I mean, I'm able to joke around with him a lot of the time, and I think we have a great player-coach relationship, and same with the assistant coaches. It's a great family atmosphere, and I'm just really excited to keep going and make my teammates better, and you know, hopefully get that state championship.
There you go. Right on. Okay, well, heard it here first. Olivia Gray, gunner for the state championship. That's probably not, I'm sure that's everybody's goal. So. Oh yeah. Yeah. I'd hope it is anyway. Right. Yeah. So we'll catch you next time. Preps Plus podcast.